Hello, friends. James Stevenson back with your weekly subscriber exclusive episode of James and Loki's Gems of the Week, the show in which Loki and I walk you through all the posts that we liked on X and talk about why we liked them. That is not the best. That's a better focus. My camera does figure it out sometimes what it's supposed to be focusing on. All right, let's do as we usually do in this series and just scroll right up my likes on X, which you can't see anymore because likes are private. Maybe now is a good time for me to mention I used to get a lot more visibility on X when people could see what posts Elon Musk was liking. So, like 2 years ago, I would, I would have Elon Musk like three of my posts that week, and I would get a lot of visibility and engagement and traction because people could see that Elon had liked my post. He is still liking my posts, friends, but nobody sees it. I will get 16 likes on a post, one of which was from Elon Musk. Sometimes. Uh, that's that's how it goes, I guess. I understand why likes were made private. That was to make sure even people posting controversial things would be able to get likes from normal people who didn't want to be harassed over what they were liking. And that makes sense and everything. But there were casualties involved in that. I don't want you to think that Elon stopped liking my stuff. He's still following me and subscribing to me. Hi, Elon, if you're watching. You definitely have time to watch James and Loki's Gems of the Week every week for sure. Oh, that's. So the last post that I liked last week was from Brian White. The next post that I liked, of course, came from Elon Musk, and he was replying to me. The funny part about that clown's analysis said he, well, let's give you the context, I guess. It's Roger, this dummy, this new Tesla Q member at RDD147. You've seen him for about the past year, I guess. Posted the truly remarkable thing about Musk is he gets money from the government for lying in general and not based on business fundamentals. Tesla grants slash subsidies essentially mirror SpaceX contract money for Artemis moon trips that still never happened. Basically, the more Musk ramps up lies, the more the government indiscriminately throws money at him. Well, that's a load of malarkey, and so is this chart, because it's including stuff like EV tax credits that aren't government money. That's money paid to you by your competitors. If you're Tesla, your competitors did not produce enough EVs and sell them to comply with applicable law. Therefore, they had to buy extra EV credits from you. That money came from your competitors. It didn't come from taxpayers. It didn't come from the government. The only way the government was involved at all was by setting emission standards and saying, hey, your fleet average emissions need to be at least this low so that we don't destroy the environment so people can breathe easier, literally, breathe inhaling less pollutants. That's all the government said. After that, the out of compliance competitors had to do something to get into compliance. And the thing they had to do was buy extra credits that Tesla doesn't need because Tesla has never produced a vehicle that has a tailpipe and has any emissions. So Tesla can sell all of the credits they earn by selling zero emission vehicles. That's in here, and all the SpaceX money from NASA is in here, even though SpaceX is providing a valuable service. They're providing orbital launch services at a lower cost to US taxpayers than they would have otherwise paid, which is the point that I made. So, yeah, this is a whole bunch of malarkey. This chart is codswallop. To which I replied, please stop lying. That 3.5 billion is earned by providing valuable launch services, less than half of SpaceX's revenue, see chart, and a far better deal for taxpayers than NASA or the Defense Department would have gotten from any other provider, Boeing, Russia, United Launch Alliance, etc. Yeah, the Defense Department also has SpaceX launch their spy satellites and shuttle. There is a Department of Defense shuttle in orbit almost all the time. It stays up for years at a time because there are no astronauts on it. It's an unmanned shuttle from the Defense Department doing Defense Department stuff in orbit. And this is the chart that I made with the help of Grok. Grok can make you a text-based chart if you ask Grok to do so for you. And I did. I said, hey, break down SpaceX's revenue for me by who they get the revenue from. So the $3.5 billion that comes from the US government is pretty small compared to the $4.5 billion from Starlink residential, the $1.5 billion from Starlink commercial, and the $3.5 billion from all other revenue sources combined that SpaceX has. With the note down here telling you each of these blocks represents $0.1 billion. And the total is $13 billion, only $3.5 billion of which comes from the US government. Elon replied, the funny part about that clown's analysis is that even if every bit of misinformation he says is true, it still amounts to less than 1% of the value of Tesla and SpaceX. What's he mean? Well, SpaceX is worth $750 billion, and Tesla's worth over $1 trillion. The market cap for Tesla is, I don't know, $1.5 trillion. So $1,500 billion, if you were to say it that way. So the combined value of the two is over $2 trillion. Yeah, my phone app says the current Tesla market cap is $1.57 trillion. So 1,570 billion plus 750 billion worth of SpaceX valuation from its most recent acquisition of XAI that was public makes almost $2.3 trillion worth of valuation between the two companies. And then he replied to that with, where did the other 99% come from? I replied, also funny though, 1.3 billion of Nevada tax breaks are money that wasn't going to exist either way. If Tesla hadn't gotten the Nevada tax incentive, there would have been no Giga Nevada to tax. They would have built it in Texas or New Mexico or Arizona or California or whoever gave them a better deal than Nevada would. Nevada just said, hey, you won't have to pay us the regular taxes that companies pay in Nevada if you build your Gigafactory here. And Tesla said, okay, that's a good deal. We'll make the investment. But the tax breaks didn't lose Nevada any money because the taxes would not have existed either way, whether Tesla had built there or not built there. In neither case would they have paid the $1.3 billion. It's imaginary money, was the point of that reply. Okay. So I liked both of those posts. From Elon, the next post that I liked came from Tesla News, the Tesla Newswire, at Tesla Newswire. Eunice has officially paved the way for wide approval of Tesla FSD supervised and unsupervised systems in Europe, Japan, and many other countries. UNECE, the United Nations something or other. Maybe it's not even English. I don't know. The draft, let me know in the comments below if you know what UNECE stands for. The draft regulation will be submitted to the UNECE World Forum for Harmonization of Vehicle Regulations for adoption in its next session. If adopted, the global regulation would enter into force immediately, meaning Tesla could demonstrate compliance in the following weeks. Here are the rules. So, good stuff, possibly, meaning Tesla will have approval to launch full self-driving in Europe in all EU nations. That would be better than having to go country by country. So I liked that. It's too long to read you all of, but you can pause and read through it if you want. Here's one from Rudiger Klahn. I don't know if I pronounced that. I definitely pronounced that wrong. The shape will be pretty much exactly like a Starlink V3 sat, a Starlink sat also has to radiate away all the heat from the networking equipment and antenna amplifiers. Only a fraction goes into RF. Nevertheless, the flat metal body of the satellite is enough. What are we talking about here? It's a thread begun by Ed Ludlow. How big / what dimension are AI satellites, space data centers to be? Farzad replied, I think the solar panels / radiators are going to have to be at least 100 times larger than the data centers themselves, at least. Please correct, tagging Philip Johnston, who works at SpaceX, I guess, co-founder and CEO of StarCloud. No, that's not SpaceX. That's StarCloud, I guess, and Elon Musk. And he got a reply from somebody who knows. Rüdiger Klein, maybe. I'll keep pronouncing it different ways, and maybe one of them will be right. Who is a freelance hacker. All right, let me zoom back out again because I zoomed in too much. Inadvertently, sometimes I send inadvertent hand signals to my OBSBot camera, and then it does things I don't want it to do. But the point here is you won't be stopped from putting AI data centers in space by a thermal constraint, Elon Musk would call it. You're not thermally constrained against being able to launch data centers in space because you can radiate the heat out the back of the satellite in its own shadow. It's gathering electricity from the sun and then radiating excess heat the other direction. So that's how you get rid of your heat if you're in space. Space is cold, so you can just radiate the heat away, is how it's been explained to me. I am not a physicist or an engineer. Here's one from Sawyer Merritt. Or an astro-engineer, if that's a thing. News, Tesla has overtaken Toyota to become France's most reliable car brand, as per a new nationwide reliability ranking published by Auto Plus magazine. File under things I didn't expect to see, Sawyer Merritt post. So I gave that one a like. Toyota's very reliable, so for the French to say Teslas are more reliable than Toyotas was a surprise to me. Here's one from CERN Basher. I can't read you this whole article, but I found it a fascinating read on one of my afternoon walks. I've been trying to walk more in the afternoon to get more exercise since I work from home for my day job that I still can't quit because social media does not pay enough for me to quit my day job. The Ice King's Ghost, how the battle over refrigeration predicts the autonomous future. It underscored to me how little we understand history from not that long ago, like a little over 100 years ago. People couldn't make ice at home, so you had to get ice delivered to you. I knew that, but I thought that the ice was coming from factories that made ice using refrigeration techniques. That's not where they got the ice from. They went to the North Pole and cut ice out of icebergs, or to the Great Lakes that were frozen over, and cut out blocks of ice and then transported them all across the country and elsewhere. And you may not know how that applies, but CERN Basher makes it very clear that that transition is very similar to what Tesla will experience soon. I'll let you go read the article on your own time. It's way too long for me to read you. Here's one from Warren Redlick. Let's get the context for this one before reading it. This guy claims an IQ of 150 plus. This post is IQ 90 or less. Is how to read this. Health Ranger. Somebody needs to tell Elon Musk the only feasible way for humans to live on the moon is to live underground in bunkers. Due to radiation exposure, you can't just waltz around the surface of the moon all day. The moon has no magnetosphere to divert ionizing radiation. Elon's vision of humans living in the above-ground moon domes is pure fiction. They would only die there, not live there. Uh, the, just the parade of self-appointed experts on X who think they've done more thinking about how to colonize Mars or live on the moon than everyone at SpaceX combined, including Elon Musk, never ceases to amaze me. There's so many people who think they are individually smarter than the collective minds assembled by SpaceX. Leadpile replied he isn't completely wrong. Why do you think he started the Boring Company and developed a tunnel machine that can start from the surface without prep work? Warren replied, someone needs to tell Elon is usually a bad way to start anything. He knows. He's heard it already. He solicits feedback from people a lot. And he's pretty well informed. Like, he went searching for information on how to make rockets and read all the books by all the best authors he could find. He knows the rocket equation. He knows a lot about space and astrophysics and aeronautical engineering and a great many other topics. And if you assume that Elon doesn't want to, well, it's hard for me to quantify exactly where to start with all the misplaced misinformation being imposed on Elon by the writer of that post, that it's tough for me. Like, I'm good on X because I get as many chances as I want to rethink and rewrite and rephrase the point that I'm making, which you don't get to witness in these long live videos of me. But what Elon's planning for moon habitation is the South Pole. That's where the water ice is likely to be on the moon, and it's shielded from the radiation by virtue of being or orthogonal to the sun's radiation. So it's screaming past you rather than directly at you if you're at the moon's south pole. So you're going to get a lot less of it there than you would at the moon's equator. And he does intend to go digging and to put most of the habitations below the surface and to limit the time on the surface. And presumably, SpaceX will have radiation measuring equipment on the surface that'll let people know when it's an okay time to go for a walk on the moon and when it isn't. And to say that you're going to die instantly when you get to the moon if you try to walk around on the surface is a dumb thing to say, because Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin and the rest of the 15 Apollo astronauts who landed on the moon and returned safely to the Earth usually lived for a long time. So we'll get out of here and keep moving to the next one from Casey Hanmer. I've been a bit busy, but cobbled together some notes on lunar factories. So if you want to know more about lunar factories, go read that article. I don't want to hazard more moon habitation conversation in this video. You may be sick of me talking about a topic I don't know all that much about already. Here's one from Franco Mosoto at F Mosoto on X. I pronounced his name as though it was Japanese instead of Italian, which surely it must be. After years using autopilot, I was able to see Tesla full self-driving supervised in action on city streets in Rome. As a passenger, I was astonished by the driving smoothness and how it handled traffic roundabouts, pedestrians, and works on the street better than most humans. Yeah, there's the works on the street, surely translated from the Italian literally to get you that phrase for road work going on in Rome, which I bet he probably spelled Roma on his, as Italians do and always have. Here's one from Gally at G. Felci. Just took a robotaxi ride across Austin for 7 minutes, 1.61 miles, and it was only $2.61. Why did I smile when I said 1.61 miles? Because of how confusing that is to anyone who knows that 1.61 kilometers equals 1 mile. That's not what he's saying here. He didn't go exactly 1 kilometer. He went 1.61 miles, which is, more than 2 kilometers. And it was only $2.61 to go over a mile and a half. So that's a lot better deal than you're going to get from Uber or Lyft. Try booking any Uber or Lyft to make a 1.61 mile long trip. They're going to charge you a lot more than $2.61, friends, in Austin or anywhere else. So Galileo Russell is telling you Tesla will be able to quote you a better fare than the others will. And that's the only thing you need to win in the competitive environment, right? That plus don't lose money on your operation, and you will be able to take over any market you enter. Here's one from Larry Goldberg. This idiot would halt our leading innovator, which would permit the only credible competitor, China, to win. Absent Elon and SpaceX, China would absolutely swamp the US in space. Last year, China had 90 successful launches to orbit. The US, excluding SpaceX, had 10. China had 90, the US had 10 if you don't count SpaceX. Even in mass to orbit, China beat the US by 2 to 3 times more payload mass to orbit, again, if you exclude SpaceX. But if you include SpaceX, the US whipped China 176 to 90 in launches and 9 times more mass to orbit. That's if you include everybody, including the European Space Agency and Rocket Lab and Blue Origin and everybody else. In 2025, SpaceX launched more than 9 times more. However, I should have just said that. Pretend that I said it the right way. Mass to orbit, useful mass to orbit, than everybody else combined. Elon has never spoken of monopolizing any market and has always welcomed competitors. It's high time competitors took up the cudgels and challenged him, but we shouldn't let him is no way to create that competition. It takes us all down a slippery slope. Don't attack the leader in the economic space. Encourage competitors to do better. Who's he reposting? It's Matthew Iglesias at Matty Iglesias. I think I've seen this person hating hard on Elon Musk before. Hard to remember with all the haters. Elon Musk has a dream of leveraging SpaceX's dominant position in SpaceX launch and monopolizing data centers and AI. We shouldn't let him do it. We should prevent him from launching AI data centers in space so that he'll have to spend more doing it on Earth and drive costs higher for everyone else who wants to do it on Earth by making him pay for terrestrial data centers. Let's worsen economic outcomes for all participants in the data center space on Earth by having the government stop Elon Musk from launching data centers in space. That's crazy stuff. That I liked the rebuttal from Larry, Tesla Larry, to Larry Goldberg. Here's one from Amy at _SF Tahoe. Those invested in Uber and Waymo deliberately want you to ignore Tesla's huge advantage because Tesla manufactures their own robotaxis. Retweeting no safe words at cyber_trailer. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, latest Waymo platform built in China by Geely and upfitted in Arizona by Magna suffers complete electrical failure. So you can see the chase car has already gotten here to park behind the Waymo with their hazards on so that if somebody rear ends a vehicle, it won't be the expensive one from Waymo and they won't have to report it on their traffic collisions reporting. You park your company car, Waymo, behind it that isn't a robotaxi, you can tell because Waymo puts sensors all over anything that's a Waymo robotaxi, right? So they had somebody drive out their Waymo company car and park behind this Waymo to prevent it from being collided with. probably putting the parking brake on to make sure that if they get rear-ended, they won't impact the vehicle in front of it, or it'll be a collision between two Waymo-owned vehicles that doesn't need to be reported or whatever. But yeah, Tesla has a huge advantage because they manufacture their own vehicles, vertically integrated at cost is Tesla's cost of robotaxis. It only costs you as much as the materials and the assembly of them, the joining of parts together, and the labor required to do so. That's how much you pay for a Tesla robotaxi. Competitors are having to ship stuff around the world that they buy from other people already manufactured and then upfit it by adding computers to it and by adding networking cables and by adding cameras and LiDAR sensors and radar and networking to make them all talk to each other and in-car displays for the passengers to use, right? If that sounds expensive to you, that's because it's costing them at least double what Tesla pays per robotaxi, even when they buy them from Geely in China, which is why I gave that post a like. Here's one from FSD Pilot at J Chabowski. At J Chabow is the handle on X. It was a venue in New York City, Doofus. Top of the standard / boom boom room, now out of business, but in the 90s was a well-known hotspot in New York City overlooking the Hudson, as it says here. Why would I like that post? Well, it's because it's correcting the misinformation from this idiot, Zach Nelson, who is now a full-time engagement farmer on X, posting incendiary information like, cool story, bro, can you tell us more about Epstein's boom boom room? Well, Epstein didn't own a boom boom room. He was attending a public space with Kimball Musk, which is the point made by Jay Chabow and many others in the reply saying, hey, that wasn't a secret spot for illegal activities to happen. That was a public venue that sold alcoholic beverages known as the Boom Boom Room. Here's one from Scott Manley. So based on the SpaceX FCC filing, here's a SSO halo and multiple 30-degree LEO shells. So what do we have here? Well, these are typical 30-degree orbits that SpaceX launches Starlink satellites into because most of the people using Starlink will be able to get reception from one of these satellites being overhead. What about these constellations? Well, SpaceX has applied for permits to launch AI data centers into these orbits, polar orbit, or more specifically, Halo LEO shells. So low Earth orbit, meaning these are going to get enough atmospheric drag from being close enough to the xenosphere, I guess, for them to decay gradually in orbit. Their elevation will decline a little bit every day, every week, every month, every year, until they re-enter Earth's atmosphere and burn up. Why would you put them in this orbit? So that they're never in Earth's shadow. If you put them into this orbit, they will always be getting sunlight from the sun, which is what you need to power them if they're an AI data center 24/7, 365. So that's what SpaceX has launched, or has applied for permission to launch. And I replied, so many replies from people thinking this visual wasn't enlarged at all and worried SpaceX is really planning to launch 100,000 satellites, each of which is larger than Tokyo or London. Yeah, if you look at each of these dots on here and you compare them to the cities below them, like how much of this Australia would Sydney take up? About the space of one of these satellites, right? But SpaceX will not be launching satellites the size of Sydney, Australia, into orbit. There isn't any mechanism by which they could launch a satellite that large and that massive. Good stuff there that I gave a like to. Here's one from Chris Mader at EV Curve Futurist, China's 10,000-ton all-electric container ship, begun sea trials. Hashtag Betrification will hit short sea shipping fast, massive fuel savings, dramatically lower maintenance, battery swapping instead of bunkering, quieter ports, cleaner air, diesel feeders won't compete. This is a commercial feeder, not a demo. So, based on battery size, propulsion power, and realistic operating speeds, estimated range 280 to 370 kilometers per charge, ideal for coastal, river, and port-to-port routes. So if you've got a container ship that needs to go, upriver to Memphis from New Orleans, well, you could put all your containers on this electric-powered container ship, and it'll steam right up the river against the flow of the Mississippi to Memphis, around all those winding curves of Old Man River, the Mississippi River. I will not sing you the song from Showboat unless you get a few more drinks in me at a karaoke bar that will play accompaniment. And I'm feeling my lower register working for me that day. Here's one from James McPherson, or Jim McPherson, depending which one you want to say. I gave a like to this one, which is a reply, so I'll give you the context. He replied to that same post we just saw. The only reason people are hypersensitive to the relative size/brightness is because so many false assumptions have been made from similar inaccurate illustrations in the past that would have you believe Starlink makes it impossible to view the stars because it covers the entire sky, which is something people believed pre-launch. Scott Manley, the original post author, replied, "It makes traditional long-exposure astrophotography impossible in certain parts of the sky." To which Jim McPherson replied, "Starlink does not ruin astrophotography. SSO data centers might, given their density. For Starlink, with my Celestron Raza 8, about as sensitive an instrument as possible, I can eliminate their trails in post-processing using Windsorized Sigma clipping in PixInsight. AI tools can also fix individual subs in post-processing, but I haven't had to use them yet." He also replied, "As an aside, my first interaction with Elon Musk was me complaining about this issue specifically. He told me not to worry about it, and it turns out he was right, but not in the way he thought." So don't step to Jim McPherson unless you know a lot about astrophotography is the point of that like. Here's one from Tesla Chan, at Tesla Chan. "Tesla's robotaxi saved me. On Austin Road, Waymo's vehicle entered the road at a steeper angle than expected, but Tesla's unsupervised robotaxi detected it early and performed a collision avoidance assist. My girlfriend and I were very surprised at the moment, but we felt safer thanks to the quick response related to the safety of the robotaxi. Thank you, robotaxi." Check out that Waymo. You can see it taking a very wide right turn. Why would it take a right turn that wide? It makes no sense. What is it doing? It looks like it changed its mind about going straight and decided to turn right instead and cut into the lane that was already occupied by this oncoming Tesla robotaxi, which saw the encroachment into its lane, predicted that that would happen, and swerved right into the luckily empty lane to its right to avoid a head-on collision with that Waymo. Would that have made headlines? You bet it would have. Close call between a Tesla robotaxi and a Waymo vehicle straying too far out of its lane. Here's one from Marco Van Loon, at Marco_Van_Loon. Replying to Matthew Battle, longtime Tesla hater, who said, "What has Musk innovated?" Marco Van Loon replied with CERN Basher's helpful infographic, which I didn't have handy, but he did and had already replied. And the rule is, if someone has already replied with the reply you were going to make, you owe them a like. So I gave Marco Van Loon a like here for having done what I would have done: provide Matthew Battle with a list of things Elon Musk has unveiled or contributed LOL is the typical Matthew Battle response he's been leaving for many, many years. And he had nothing intelligent to say apart from LOL, because this is a list of things that Elon Musk has innovated. All right. Here's one from Sarah at The Simple Sarah. Thank you to FSD. This is a short video. I'll just play it for you.
FSD, there is no shoulder, there is no way to get out, and there's a car broken down in the middle of the lane. You can see that we're on FSD the entire time. The turn signal turns on, it gets over and misses the car that is broken down. I'm not gonna lie, I did not even see this car on the road until we were right up on it. I had no idea what was going on. And it was almost too late. This could have been a tragedy for so many people. All right, guys, this is...
Yeah. So there you go, from the simple_Sarah, just showing you
is exactly what FS...
that when you can't see something like this, or for whatever reason you're not looking, and you don't see that there's this giant hazard hanging out in your lane that you need to get around, FSD is taking measurements 36 times per second. FSD is sending control to your steering wheel and your pedals 18 times per second. And you are not making that many decisions about what you're seeing and doing. As a driver, the robotaxi, or the FSD in this case, the ADAS, in Sarah's Tesla, was looking out for her in this case and prevented a collision that would otherwise have happened. So how do you not give that a like? Here's one from Whole Mars. Recently changed their handle to just Whole Mars instead of Whole Mars Blog, ruining the pun that was originally the pun here. It was Omar's Blog, and his handle was Wholemar's Blog, which sounds a lot like Omar's Blog. After his Tesla Truth account got shut down by old Twitter, it suspended his old account and he had to make a new one. This is the dumbest argument people make. Actually, as a quick aside, because I know all of you follow Omar, when Twitter suspended his old account, he posted the screenshots of what old Twitter told him, and they said, you are prohibited from ever having another account, which is why he's touchy about talking about owning the Tesla Truth account, even though if you go watch the Elon Musk interview by the Third Row podcast, including Omar, he introduced himself as Tesla Truth with his handle on it in the video. So you know nobody's making that up. That was his claim at the time before that account got suspended. Let's get the context here. It is Sarah's video being retweeted by some UK Tesla guy. It was always going to be the case that this technological revolution was going to have a lot of quirks. Unfortunately, an increasing craze is to cite how amazing Tesla's FSD is because someone didn't spot what FSD did, whilst FSD did indeed do right here. Any human who genuinely wouldn't have seen this, the car has their hazard lights on, should carefully consider their driving. Well, newsflash from Omar. This is the dumbest argument people make. This is a short video clip where you know when you start seeing video footage in your X feed that something must be about to happen. Otherwise, nobody would have posted it to X, right? People don't post clips where nothing happens to X, which is 99.9% of driving. Nothing happens. There's nothing worth talking about in most FSD footage. This is a short clip. You know something's about to happen. That's very different from a real-world scenario where people are distracted, talking to each other, eating a sandwich, listening to music, fatigued, intoxicated in the real world. Lighting isn't as clear as it is on film, and you can be looking in any direction. Yeah, the video makes it sharper than it is to the human eyes in the car, because you don't have other lights shining on you while you're watching the video. right? Like as you would as a human driver in the car. You should have seen that, in quotes. Well, over 1 million people die on the roads every year. In almost every case, someone should have seen it and prevented the accident, but they didn't because humans are fallible. This technology fixes that. Spend some time actually using the technology before making silly comments like this. If your expectation is that people are supposed to drive perfectly all the time, I have bad news for you. The real world is messy and idiosyncratic and includes drivers who aren't that good. Below average drivers are more than half, or exactly half, the drivers on the road. People who are average or worse are more than half of drivers on the road, is the way George Carlin would state it in his stand-up comedy, saying, think about how stupid the average person is, and now realize half of them are stupider than that. The same applies to anything, right? The same applies to human driving skill. Imagine how bad the average human driver is. Now realize half of them are worse than that. The next post that I liked came from Sawyer Merritt News. Aurora's driverless trucks can now run longer than human drivers are legally allowed. The company said the latest software update to its driverless hardware suite will enable its trucks to drive nonstop from Phoenix to Fort Worth. That trip is roughly 1,000 miles long and takes 15 hours to complete. By contrast, a human driver would legally have to take a 30-minute break after 11 hours of driving. The company currently has 5 autonomous trucks carrying cargo without safety monitors between Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, and El Paso, Texas. By the end of 2026, the startup expects to have over 200 driverless trucks in operation, none of which Bill Gates believe exist. Their trucks use LiDAR, radar, and cameras. If you don't know what I'm referencing, Elon Musk tells the story of how he was talking about the Tesla Semi to Bill Gates, and Bill Gates told him, that's not possible. And Elon was like, no, we already have them. You can drive one. We'll put you in one that has a full charge, and you can drive it more than 300 miles, I promise. Towing 82,000 pounds worth of cargo behind it. A 40-ton trailer full of cinder blocks or whatever you want to put in it, bottled beverages, whatever you know is heavy, it'll go longer than 300 miles. And Bill Gates said, no, it can't happen. And then Elon was like, well, what do you think the constraint is? Do you think the constraint is the efficiency? Bill Gates could not come up with a specific objection to how he thought it was impossible for there to be an electric semi as opposed to a combustion semi being able to tow a heavy load more than 300 miles. But these folks are telling you they have a semi that can go nonstop Phoenix to Fort Worth. That's a lot longer than 300 miles, friends. If you've never driven across West Texas, it is a long way from Fort Worth to El Paso. I've said it before on this post, but when you're in El Paso, Texas, you're closer to San Diego than you are to Wascom, Texas, which is as far east as you can go across the middle of Texas before you get into Louisiana. Here's one from Roland Percher at PILOLY, replying to the son of Walkley. So let's get the context for this. Breaking Tesla China exported 50,644 cars in January, record high. To which Roland took exception. Why is everyone wrong about this? The highest number of exports was in October 2022 at 54,504 units. You're using the wrong sources. So it's the highest in 2 years. It's the highest in 3 years, barely. But it isn't the highest ever because 4 years ago, it was higher. In October of 2022, that one is the highest ever. This one is pretty good, though, on this chart. You don't have to exaggerate by saying that it was a record high. Unless what you meant is that it's a record high for January, in which case it would be because the only higher bar was in October. So there you go. When you hear people saying Tesla's domestic sales in China are down versus prior year, the correct reply from you will be, but their export sales were a record high for any January ever. Or that they were close to a record high for any month, as Roland might prefer you to say it, so that nobody is confused into thinking that it was an all-time record high for any month. Let's get the context on this one from Robert Graham. This is a lie. It ignores the generation, transmission, and translation losses getting electrical power to your car. Taking those into account, electric cars are around 35% efficient, better than 25% efficiency of gasoline cars, but not extraordinarily so. Electric cars are important for other reasons. Solar is quickly dropping in price to become the least cost generator, but still has enormous infrastructure costs getting to the power to customers at the right time. In some places, during peak solar hours, electric prices can even go negative. Programming electric cars to recharge during those peak hours would go a long way to reducing solar prices. Reposting Jan Rosenow, or Jan Rosenow, I guess. A reminder, ICE vehicles waste a whopping 80% of energy in their fuel. EVs are propelled by entirely different mechanisms. With this infographic that probably I shouldn't spend a lot of time explaining to you. It's just saying EVs are better, which you probably already believe if you're watching this video. And Auk Hoekstra, who is an expert on this topic, replied, "You, sir, are the liar here. Look at my pinned thread for multiple examples. You want to compare 100% coal to wheel EVs, while grids are quickly decarbonizing over the lifetime of the EV to tank to wheel ICE, not taking into account gasoline production and real-world performance. You are a disgrace." Yeah, he wants to set an unfair fight with his terms here. He's saying, yeah, but your EV isn't counting generation, transmission, and translation losses and pollution that happens during its life cycle from the beginning of the process. Well, if you're going to do that for the EVs, you have to do it for the ICE vehicles as well. You have to take them all the way back to exploring for oil, drilling for oil, pumping oil, shipping oil, refining oil into gasoline, transporting the gasoline to your pump. Do you think any pollution happens during any of those phases? You don't? You just want to exclude that? That's what Auk Hoekstra was reminding him of there. Carsonite replying, "It ignores the generation, transmission, and translation losses getting electrical power to your car. By this metric, Arata Rob ignores the extraction, transportation from the well, refining, and transportation to final destination costs of petroleum. Fair is fair. Make it a fair fight. Make it a level playing field if you want to see which one is more efficient, internal combustion engines or EVs. Don't hold one of them to one standard and the other to a different standard. That's called a double standard. And it's not how you're supposed to do stuff." Here's one from Zooks. Let's get you the context here. It is Zooks was tagged by Sawyer Merritt in this post. Amazon-owned Zooks spotted testing today in Marysville, Ohio, near Honda's factory. Zooks uses cameras, LiDAR, radar, and long-wave infrared sensors in their robotaxis. Interestingly, it's not a Honda, it's a Toyota near a Honda factory in Marysville, Ohio. Look at all that equipment on top of this thing. Now, I know Tesla uses LiDAR for validation when they enter new markets, just to scan the whole place real well, make sure they understand what environment they're putting robotaxis into, so that they can take all the appropriate precautions and etc. Make sure the cameras are calibrating correctly, they see where everything is, and they're thinking about the distances between things correctly as measured by the LiDAR before they enter a market, but then they don't need any LiDAR from that point forward. I replied, I thought humorously, design intent for their final robotaxi. I got help from Grok, you might have guessed, in creating this image, asking it to add stuff that would normally be found at the base of a broadcast tower or on a naval warship. I was trying to think what what would be the most dramatic way to add more sensors to this thing that already has too many sensors, clearly. And then Zooks replied, needs more sensors. That's a good sense of humor by the intern running the Zooks social media account on X. So I gave that one a like. Hopefully you appreciated that humor as well. Here's one from Chris Backey at Chris J. Backey. Maybe that's how he pronounces that. Your father was a prolific Waymo door closer. People said he could close 80 or 90 doors a night. With this meme of mom explaining to the kids how they got so rich. Well, he's reposting Kent Williams here saying Waymo hiring DoorDash drivers to close car doors in Atlanta. Spotted on Reddit. Really putting the door in DoorDash. That's a good post from Kent Williams that went viral justifiably. I'm making fun of Waymo for this because the approach Lars Moravi, I think, has told people, I'm not imagining it, I don't think, that they would pre-program in maneuvers to Robotaxi to close its doors. So all you have to do is accelerate, or if you want to do it really gently or at low speed, reverse to 5 miles per hour, and then immediately shift into drive and accelerate to 5 miles per hour, and your doors will close themselves, right? You don't need to pay DoorDash drivers to come close your doors for you, unless you're Waymo, and that was the best thing you could come up with. I mean, it's not a terrible solution because DoorDash drivers are already everywhere, so probably there's one close, so you won't have to pay them for hours of work to get to the location to close it for you that way. The other one is if someone puts a traffic cone on the hood, as we've seen happen to Waymos in San Francisco, they just get stuck at that point, right? They can't see in front of them. The LiDAR doesn't work. The remote driver in the Philippines can't see what's ahead of the thing to get rid of the cone. So they just stay stuck until a human Waymo employee comes to remove the cone from the hood. I think Lars has said they could do a shed maneuver where you drive ahead and you turn to the right as you approach a curb, and then you hit your brakes, and the traffic cone will remove itself from your hood. It'll fly off the hood to the side of the road where it won't be an obstacle to traffic, and then you can reverse away from there and drive off. So that would be a good thing if Tesla hasn't already cracked that. Ashok, if you're watching, I know you're a subscriber. Make sure you've got that macro in there before somebody tests driverless, safety monitorless Robotaxi by throwing a traffic cone onto the hood. Make sure it's got that shed maneuver it can execute. Here's one from Sawyer Merritt. I see some people incorrectly claiming the Tesla Semi's 500-mile range isn't enough. Average daily miles, long-haul drivers, 400 to 600 miles. Regional drivers, 300 to 500 miles. Local/delivery drivers, 100 to 300 miles. Not every Class 8 Semi runs near the full 80,000 pounds. So that's just some good information for you, and an infographic here with semi specs saying, hey, that's plenty good for most usual applications. And even if you wanted to go 1,000 miles a day, you could if you had a mega charger at your distribution center. What am I talking about? Well, if you're trying to run goods between two locations, you run it 500 miles one way, you stop, you unload, you plug in while people are trying to unload your truck and while people are trying to reload stuff onto your truck. And maybe by the time they're done, you've already got your full charge and your Tesla Semi can drive another 500 miles the same day. It's not hard to think of an example of how that could work. Mega chargers will get you charged up in less than an hour, right? Let me know in the comments below if you know how fast Tesla Mega Charger can recharge a semi from zero to full. Here's one from Felix Hamer at Electric Felix, replying to the fraud posing behind the fake name Brad Munkin, who posted, hashtag Tesla is getting cooked by Chinese rivals all over the world except for the US. But here's what's hilarious. Musk paid $300 million to elect Trump, who yesterday canceled GHG credit sales, which creates a $1.6 billion headwind for Tesla's 2026 profits. Here's the reply from Felix. Actually, fascinating data over the years. Top global sales / deliveries of battery electric vehicles by group and brand. This is data from globally, with BYD Group showing in 2025 as finally surpassing Tesla for the #1 slot. Remember, they're selling mostly budget vehicles. Mostly what they're selling are cars that you can buy 3 of for the price of one Model Y. Let me close out of this. So if you were to do this chart by revenue, by automotive revenue, or by automotive gross profit, or by earnings, Tesla would be #1 for EV sales. Most of these companies are losing money selling EVs, and they'll tell you so. Like Ford publishes it separately, so you know they're losing money on their EVs. They will admit as such. And below that, he's got some other ones here showing Tesla was #1 in 2022, and in 2023, and in 2024. And #2 in 2025 behind BYD, as we just saw. So I gave that one a like because then I didn't have to correct the misinformation from Motorhead this time. Here's one from AJ from February 13th, so 2 days ago. News, Rivian beats Tesla in cash flow generation if you remove the minus sign from Rivian's cumulative negative free cash flow. The resulting number exceeds Tesla's cumulative positive free cash flow. Chart updated for Rivian's reported Q4 25 negative cash flow of 1.14. So what's he saying? He's saying on this chart, the distance from the zero line here to where Rivian is currently is negative, what is that? $24 billion worth of cash flow they have burned, and somehow people keep giving them more money. Now, the distance from here, Tesla's low point, to here, Tesla's current, most recent update, is more, right? The distance from negative $10 billion to $22 billion would be like $32 billion to the positive since bottoming. But what AJ is saying is, hey, if you just measure from here, from Tesla's break-even point, after they had become cash flow positive for a few years, from here to here is less than from here to here. Rivian has managed to burn more cash than Tesla has made cumulatively. That is jaw-dropping. And here's one from Brian White, his first post that I liked so far this week. Tesla is finished in Europe, also in Europe. Tesla Model Y outsells all EV rivals in Europe in 2025 despite headwinds. The result highlights Model Y's continued strength in the region. It's still the #1 selling EV in Europe. You would never know it to hear people talking about how Tesla is dead in Europe. Well, the only Tesla made in Europe is the #1 selling vehicle in EV in Europe. Here's one from Matt Smith, still true. That hashtag Tesla is a 420 magnet. I was also considering taking a screenshot of my ticker meter when it said 420.69 on Friday, I guess. He is reposting this one from January 13th of 2025. I replied to it, the quickest path to $6 trillion for Tesla is to do an 11 for 10 stock split every single time it passes 420. How would that work? Well, every time there was a close above 420, the board would announce an 11 for 10 stock split. What would that do? It would change the price to 378. And then from 378, it's always a quick and easy trip right back up to 420 again and repeat. So Tesla board members, if you're watching this video, and I know all of you subscribe to me and watch these videos, that's how you do it. Feel free to change that up if you want, right? Maybe you could get there even faster if you would do a 100 for 99 stock split every time it closed above 420. Get that price back down below 420 again. And it'll always easily find its way back over it again. Here's one from Gwen Shotwell. Yay! Crossed the 10 million active customers mark. So happy to connect so many around the world. If you have noticed Starlink ads on your TV recently, since the Super Bowl, when they made a Super Bowl ad featuring Arthur C. Clarke, I guess, in the ad, they've been gaining subscribers, which is what you want. Looks like the advertising worked, I replied, and got 105 likes, which is not enough likes because I wanted Elon to see this and say, hey, maybe it would make sense for Tesla to advertise. If it worked for SpaceX to sell Starlink, why wouldn't it work for Tesla to sell Teslas? I think there should be good and informative, entertaining advertising from Tesla, letting people know, hey, you can afford to buy a Tesla. That would work, I think. I mean, Starlink isn't cheap, and they've got over 10 million subscribers at $100 a month. For Starlink internet access, that's not the cheapest kind of internet access you can buy, but it is very high quality. And it is available in places that you can't get other kinds of internet. Hay River, Ontario, no, Hay River, Northwest Territories, Canada, where James Locke used to spend some of his time, charged $1,600 a month for his internet access while he was there, and he had to pay it because there was no other way to get internet access there until Starlink was available there. $100 a month is a heck of a bargain compared to that, so it depends on your frame of reference. Here's one from Alojo. Can anyone guess the main difference between Tesla and Rivian? Anyone? I'll give you a hint. One of the two never figured out how to make money off EVs. And you could make the same chart for a lot of other EV companies besides just Rivian. I know AJ likes riffing on making fun of Rivian because they're the worst in terms of negative cash flow cumulatively, but there aren't other EV companies making lots of profits selling EVs. Tesla's the only one who has figured out how to keep this percentage above zero, excluding regulatory credits, as AJ did it. Here's another one. Rivian's quarterly cash burn more than doubled in the fourth quarter to $1.14 billion in 2025. Rivian lost $2.49 billion in cash after losing $2.56 billion in 2024. Rivian, since IPO, reported a single quarter with positive free cash flow. That quarter's positive free cash flow was the result of a $1 billion upfront cash payment by VW Group, a payment Rivian deferred and which Rivian releases as accounting non-cash profit as the associated performance obligation is met. So yeah, this is the only positive free cash flow, and it would have been negative $144 million if they hadn't gotten that $1 billion payment from VW Group that quarter. We saw this one already, the case for orbital data centers. I made a separate video about this, so go watch that video. And the reply from Elon Musk, yeah. Here's one from Futuraza. Don't you just hate parking on an angle? Well, for some people, it's optional. Can your truck do this? Most trucks can't. Most trucks who are parked with a low tire over here and a high tire over here would be crooked. They would be over to one side, and it would be worsened by the fact that most of the weight would be on the lower side, right? So it would really tilt over its shock absorbers. If it were parked this way, Cybertruck has an auto-leveling software feature right there on the dashboard. If you know where it is in your settings of your Cybertruck, you can auto level your truck wherever you are, no matter where your 4 contact patches from your tires are, and no matter what their elevations are, your Cybertruck can level itself within certain limits. But I mean, this is a pretty good example of how you can keep your bed level if that's what you want. To not feel like you're falling to one side or another. Here's another one I liked from Mahul, who runs Matic Robots, retweeting a video this Valentine's. Love where you live. This is a very short clip. Let's watch it, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. Why would I like that post? Because this guy has promised to send me a free Matic robot, so I'm liking his stuff when he DMs it to me to encourage him to go ahead and send me my free robot to clean my floors, and I will post a video about how I like it. He is not a sponsor of this program or a subscriber, and I am not a paid endorser for that robot, but I do want to receive my free robot that he promised me at some point so that I can make that video. And I will not opine on how long their delivery times are because I'm not paying for that robot. So you will have a different experience, hopefully, than I have had if you pay him $1,500 for his robot. Here's another one from Brian White. Stories like these make legacy energy very angry. With Assad Razouk here, I guess. You want lower electricity prices? Check out South Australia, where they are down 30% in 1 year as the state nears 100% renewables. Well, there you go. You don't have to read the rest of that post. You can find it and read the rest if you would like to. You get the idea. Renewable energy can be more affordable. Here's one from executive producer of this program, Bradford Ferguson, owner of Halter Ferguson Financial and Rebellionaire.com. Nearly all the same cities with the thinking emoji and the monocle emoji here. What are we talking about? Well, it's a post from Tesla Yoda breaking. Tesla is hiring rental readiness specialists to ramp up its rental program. The position is responsible for fleet and lot management, vehicle readiness, rental invoicing, and customer handoff. So, will Tesla be renting out Teslas to people as a way of continuing to manufacture Model Ys and Model 3s in the US at acceptable run rates greater than the break-even point to make rental cars out of them in addition to robotaxis? Or maybe you can have vehicles that double as robotaxis and rental cars. So if you want to rent them out instead of taking robotaxis, you can do that at possibly more affordable pricing than just booking a bunch of robotaxi trips. Do we think this is just about rentals? I think not. This ties into robotaxi fleet management. With nearly all the same cities hiring for safety operators across 12 locations simultaneously to ramp Tesla's robotaxi service rollout in Houston, Orlando, Palo Alto, Fremont, Farmers Branch, Texas. I couldn't tell you what part of Texas that is, maybe in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area, I would guess. Chicago, Austin, Tempe, Sunnyvale, San Francisco, Peabody, and Tampa, Florida. So there you go. Look at all those listings for AI safety operators. That sounds like a shenanigans chaperone position in a Tesla robotaxi at launch, which will be a temporary position, we hope, as Tesla investors. Here's one I liked from American Papa Bear. Cybertruck cops in Vegas. So there you go. You got a Tesla Cybertruck in Las Vegas, hauling folks off to jail in a Cybertruck. My guess is that those officers would not want to go back to a regular squad car after having experienced the joy of driving a Tesla Cybertruck police car instead. And if they have to hide behind the door of their car in a gunfight, probably they would much rather hide behind the door of a Cybertruck with its 30X cold-rolled stainless steel that will stop bullets from small caliber handguns. Time after time, for a long time, like you need a high-powered rifle to go all the way through a Cybertruck door. Here's one from Quincy Lee at Quincy Edmund Lee. Texas entered 2025 with 7.8 gigawatts of battery electric storage capacity. It enters 2026 with 13.9 gigawatts. That is 75% growth in a single year. There you go. This is a good-looking exponential chart of rated power in megawatts in Texas for battery energy storage systems. I finally remembered what BESS stands for. Here's one from Zach. At Black Model 3 with no vowels and no C. 10 drives and many hours into FSDV 14.2.2.5. Here are my thoughts. Every drive was polished and smooth. First of all, I immediately noticed that creeping for unprotected turns is quicker and improved on my drive so far. It isn't double stopping as much, commits, and proceeds. Standard mode on Streets Plus Highway was quick to get around slower cars. The lane selection and reaction is very quick. It's being assertive and making great lane choices while doing so. I've noticed that on my old 2018 Hardware 2.5, really, Model 3. It's making better lane selections than I make if I'm not paying attention very well, or if I'm not paying full attention, devoted attention to trying to pick the best lane. My FSD is doing a better job than it used to of deciding which lane is going to be faster on a major road, not a highway, that has a lot of traffic lights. I don't see navigation bugs or weird turns here in LA. Some owners have been reporting throughout the country navigation here seems dialed in and consistent, with the exception of LAX Airport. More on that later. Lane selection was great tonight around parked cars on the side of major streets. When traffic was moving fast, it was always in the middle lane. And I like this, so it's not flying by cars parked just to the right of the right lane. It was in the middle, could be coincidence, but happened a couple of times tonight, and very human-like decision-making and behavior. Standard profile being quite good tonight with lane decisions and being assertive, but the hard cap of plus 5 miles per hour city and plus 7 miles per hour over really gets in the way on the highway and city when trying to make passes. Hurry mode doesn't have this issue on the highway, and its choices tonight on the freeway with traffic were great. So that's a good case to use hurry mode. On the freeway tonight with all speed profiles, it was really good about not camping in the left lane. Over the past few versions, this has been improving and getting more dialed in. Especially noticeable tonight, and I took the freeway a few times. It would make its pass, immediately get to the second or third lane. It's done this before, but it did it way quicker and more consistent, and that's just good road etiquette to get out of the left lane if you're not passing. Turns were early enough and smooth. Did one later entrance into a turn bus lane, but no traffic, and it was a tight lane, so I see why it waited. Parking garage behavior was unchanged from last build, so was the speed profile speed caps. The only place I saw anything wrong with navigation is LAX Airport with its 2 levels. Sometimes it gets confused and will go to the top arrivals floor instead of bottom. It did it last week, and I'll try it again with this build. Very confusing area, since the levels are almost stacked but run parallel and next to each other. Alright, so still some opportunity to improve FSD. I shouldn't have read you that much, but I will keep moving on to the next post. I just gave that one a like, because FSD is getting better. Here's one from Tesla Archive at Tesla_Archive. Breaking. Tesla Robotaxi fleet passes 300 mark. So if you've been seeing the FUD about Tesla still having only 30 robotaxis or only 50 robotaxis, it is way over that. The latest Tesla Robotaxi tracker shows 88 units operating in Austin, 215 in the Bay Area for a total of 303 vehicles. though the actual number of active robotaxis is likely even higher. With a fun little chart over here showing progress over time as more and more robotaxis hit the street. So maybe it's time for me to update my chart of robotaxis. Maybe I'll wait until Tesla expands to some more cities and update that because it's a very long timeline on that chart. And the point of the chart was to say, hey, it took Waymo many, many years to expand nationwide, and Tesla hasn't really done any more expansion since Austin and the Bay Area expanded most recently in the middle of last year. So hopefully by the middle of this year, there will be a lot more Tesla Robotaxi locations across the US, and the total geofenced area will be a lot greater for that visual to get an update. Here's one from Elon: because everyone's job is safety, it's not some fake department, the safety committee. With no power to assuage the concerns of outsiders, Tesla has no safety team and is the safest car. SpaceX has no safety team and has the safest rocket. Dragon is what NASA trusts most to fly astronauts. You don't have to have a safety committee or a safety team to have a safe work product come out of your organization, which is responding to Zwei Mauschewitz, who said safety is dead at XAI. There is no safety team on the org chart. Well, there never was. Elon Musk's companies don't have safety organizations, and that person was maybe laid off for a reason. Maybe they didn't get it working at XAI. Exactly, from Elon Musk, replying to a reply to him in that post that we just saw. Conway's Law applies here. If you build a separate safety department, you'll get safety as an interface, not an intrinsic property of the system. That's dangerous. So if you're unfamiliar with Conway's Law, it says that the software product produced by your organization will reflect the organizational structure of your company. So if your company makes software and you've got only a few leaders over that organization, but they have silos that report to them, the products produced by your company will reflect that that's how you organized it. You'll have, well, if you're making video game software, I'll just throw an example out here, and you notice that in the game, it alternates back and forth between a turn-based strategy game and a real-time battle game, and it just goes back and forth between those two. You can infer from that there were two teams working on that video game, and one of them was assigned to the turn-based strategy map, and the other one was assigned to the real-time battle map. And that's the software that they gave you, right? You just had two game designers and they smashed them together to make the video have some, to make the video game have some variety to it. Instead of it being one note the whole way through, you get to go back and forth between turn-based and real-time. That's a common thing, right? But Elon is saying you won't notice that there's a safety committee or a safety department because everyone's job is safety in his companies. Here's one from Randy Kirk. I guess you just don't want to bother to take into consideration that Berlin and Shanghai are export points and that they tend to export way more in January, the first month of the quarter, and it's always been this way. Are you uninformed or actually trying to spread disinformation? Replying to Automoto, who posted only the January year-over-year sales in the countries where Tesla has factories. Europe exports, China exports, the US exports, they all export, and they're all down year over year. There you have it. So a good reply there from Randy Kirk saying, hey, check the export numbers too before you post your FUD on X. If those are up by a lot, then it isn't really down. The production isn't down. And the sales for the quarter won't be down if they were just doing more exporting this year than they were last year. Sergi Salas at Masterplan 2018 posted breaking irony. The Netherlands could be the first EU country to greenlight Tesla FSD with RDW approval targeted for this month, but the same country just approved a 36% tax on unrealized gains for stocks, bonds, crypto, etc. Pay taxes on paper profits while your Tesla drives itself, only in the Netherlands. It's with an AI-generated image of a canal in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, is what it looks like. Tesla full self-driving computer approved in the Netherlands, and all this cash leaving this person. Oh, this person is leaving the country with their luggage, spilling all the cash out of it from the stocks they had to sell to pay their taxes in the Netherlands on unrealized capital gains. I made a separate video about that just now that you can go check out as soon as I post it. Here's one from Ray at Ray4Tesla. As I was halfway through backing out, FSD detected a Mercedes ahead that was also reversing, then proceeding toward me on the wrong side of the lane behind my Cybertruck, as shown in the bottom right clip. At the same time, another vehicle pulled up behind me, partially blocking the Mercedes, as seen in the bottom left clip. With the Mercedes obstructing my path, my Cybertruck couldn't fully back out. It took nearly a minute for the Mercedes and the third vehicle to sort things out before my truck began moving again. Through the entire process, I simply sat back and let FSD handle it. So yeah, other people sometimes can't drive. They can't figure out what side of the parking lane they're supposed to be in, and you get log jammed for a while until somebody figures out, oh, I need to reverse because I am causing this gridlock. I've got to reverse out so somebody else can move to get around me. And Ray4Tesla doing a pretty good job saying, hey, FSD takes care of it for you. And the last post that I like this week came from Jose at I Like Tesla's Cybe, reacting super fast to save us from some moron in Miami, by the looks of it. I think I Like Tesla's is now showing his location as Miami. Well, not on this page anyway, but if I click through it, it says Miami, Florida here. Yeah. So, good post there showing Cybertruck dodging another collision, as we saw in other videos this week, right, Loki? With that, I will thank you for watching the video. I appreciate your support, each and every one of you. Don't forget to like the video. And special shout out to my two executive producers, Kenty Kitchler and Rebellionaire.com. And see you in the next one.